My neighbor showed up on my doorstep one evening holding her phone out like it was evidence in a trial. "Take a look at this," she said. Two photos taken just days apart. In one, she stood tall, shoulders even, looking every bit herself. In the other, her upper back looked rounded, almost slumped. She was convinced her posture had suddenly gotten worse. It hadn't. Her body hadn't changed one bit. It was the top she had on. And that is the uncomfortable truth nobody in the fashion industry wants to tell you plainly. Certain sleeves, certain necklines, certain fabrics are quietly working against your shape every single day, and you have no idea it's happening. Today, we're naming the 7 biggest offenders sitting in your closet right now, and the simple swaps that fix them for good. Welcome back to Ever Poised, the destination for women who refuse to dress like they're apologizing for their own bodies. Before we get into it, if you've ever caught a photo of yourself and thought, "When did I start looking like that?" hit subscribe, because this is exactly the kind of thing we unpack every week. Let's start with the sleeve almost every woman over 50 owns without question, the batwing sleeve, sometimes sold to you as a dolman. It's the one that flows straight out from the body with no defined seam at the shoulder. It feels soft, it feels forgiving, and that is exactly the trap the fashion industry has been selling you for decades. All that extra fabric doesn't hang quietly. It pools and pulls right at the widest part of your upper arm and shoulder, the same horizontal line where a rounded upper back already draws the eye. Instead of softening that area, the sleeve doubles down on it. The fabric bunches, the silhouette widens exactly where you need less width, not more. Your whole upper body reads as one solid block instead of a shape with any movement running through it. Here's the mechanic behind why this happens, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The eye is drawn to contrast, to places where a line breaks or changes direction. A rounded upper back already creates a curve the eye lingers on. Add bulk from a batwing sleeve in that exact same zone, and there's nothing left to interrupt that curve. No seam, no break, nothing to redirect the eye. The area becomes one continuous shape, and continuous shapes always read heavier than shapes with visible structure running through them. The fix isn't giving up sleeves, it's choosing a seam that works with your shoulder instead of erasing it. A raglan sleeve, where the seam runs diagonally from the underarm up to the collar, creates an angled line in exactly the spot your eye needs a redirect. That diagonal interrupts the horizontal pull and sends the eye downward and inward instead of sideways. A dropped shoulder works too, but only if the drop is slight and the fabric is soft, a fine jersey or light knit, never anything stiff. Stiff fabric holds its own shape no matter what your body is doing underneath it, which means it exaggerates the shoulder line instead of skimming past it. Here's your test going forward. Does the sleeve seam create a line, or does it just add volume? A raglan or soft dropped shoulder creates a line. A batwing just adds volume exactly where you can least afford it. Try this next time you're shopping. Raise both arms slightly while trying something on. A raglan moves naturally with you. A batwing just billows out further, showing you the extra fabric it was already hiding while you stood still. Next up, the wide boat neck, that horizontal line running straight across from shoulder to shoulder. It looks elegant on a hanger, it photographs beautifully on a perfectly straight frame, but on a rounded upper back, it does something almost nobody tells you. It draws a hard horizontal line directly above the curve, and that line acts like a picture frame, pointing every eye in the room straight at the exact spot you were hoping to soften. Whatever sits inside a frame gets the attention. That is the entire purpose of a frame. A boat neck does the same thing across your collarbones. The wider and straighter it runs, the more it frames your upper back, whether that was your intention or not. The fix is a neckline that moves the opposite direction, vertical instead of horizontal. An open V-neck pulls the eye downward from the collarbone toward the chest, which reads as elongating instead of widening. A scoop neck works too, but only if it's deep enough to create real vertical distance. A shallow scoop sitting close to the collarbone behaves more like a boat neck in disguise. And here's something most women get wrong. A shallow, narrow V sitting high on the chest barely creates enough line to do its job. It needs room to actually run, several inches of visible downward line before it starts working for you. Horizontal necklines frame the upper back. Vertical necklines lead the eye away from it. One works with your shape, the other works against it, every single time. Which of these two is hanging in your closet right now, the batwing or the boat neck? Drop it in the comments because I guarantee you own at least one, and so does the woman sitting next to you at brunch who swears she's dressing perfectly for her age. Third is the funnel neck, those chunky, structured knit collars that stand straight up around the throat, marketed to us every winter as cozy staples. The coziness isn't the problem, the standing structure is. A funnel neck holds itself away from the body by design, adding visible bulk directly behind and around the neck, stacking right on top of the depth already there from a rounded upper back. That's two forms of bulk compounding each other instead of balancing out. The fix isn't abandoning knitwear, it's choosing knits by how they behave instead of how warm they look on the rack. A fine gauge knit, meaning a tighter, thinner weave rather than a chunky cable pattern, drapes instead of standing straight. It follows the actual lines of your shoulders rather than building its own shape on top of them. Pair that with a neckline that sits closer to the body, a soft crew that opens slightly rather than closing tight around the throat. Here's a fast test before you buy. Hold the knit up. Does it fold over itself easily, the way a scarf does, or does it hold a stiff shape entirely on its own? A knit that folds softly will drape on your body. A knit that holds its shape on a hanger will hold that exact shape on your shoulders, whether it flatters you or not. 3 down, 4 to go. If you've spotted yourself in this list twice already, you are not alone. And that is exactly the point. This isn't about what's wrong with your body, it's about what's wrong with the clothes being sold to us as if one cut fits every woman the same way. Number 4, the structured blazer, the kind with real shoulder pads, sharp, defined seams, and a stiff, tailored line across the upper back. This piece has been sold to women for decades as the answer to everything, the piece that instantly reads as polished. On a straight upper back, sure, it can do that job. On a rounded upper back, it does the opposite. Shoulder pads exist to build a horizontal shelf across the top of your shoulders, extending and squaring off that line. That shelf sits directly above a rounded upper back, and instead of disguising the curve, it competes with it. The eye picks up two separate structures fighting for the same space, a hard, built-up shoulder line and a soft curve just beneath it. Neither one wins. The whole area reads busy and heavy at once. The fix is dropping the structure without dropping the polish. A soft, unstructured blazer with little to no padding follows your body's natural shoulder line instead of overriding it with foam. An open cardigan in a substantial fabric can do the exact same job a blazer used to do, minus the competing shelf. Here's a trick for the fitting room. Turn to the side. A structured shoulder pad holds its horizontal line no matter how your body is positioned underneath it. An unstructured shoulder shifts and settles with you because it's actually responding to your body instead of overriding it. Number 5 might be the most controversial one on this entire list because it has nothing to do with the cut of the top at all, it's the print. Horizontal stripes. This is one of the most well-documented optical effects in styling, and somehow it's the one women forget to apply to their own upper back. A horizontal stripe is, by definition, a repeating horizontal line, and repeating horizontal lines are one of the most effective ways to visually widen anything they cross. Here's what makes this worse than every other item on this list. A batwing sleeve adds width through shape. Horizontal stripes add width through pure optical repetition, regardless of how well the top underneath is actually cut. Put a horizontal stripe on a perfectly tailored top with a flattering neckline, and that stripe pattern can undo every bit of that careful work in a single glance, because the eye reads repeating lines before it reads anything else. The swap is straightforward. Vertical stripes, or any vertical seam detail that creates the same downward pull without needing a literal stripe. A princess seam, a contrasting vertical panel, even a row of buttons running down a placket, all create the same effect stripes claim to give you, minus the damage. Number 6, the boxy cropped cardigan, the short, structured layering piece hitting right at the waist. Popular because it pairs with everything. The length is exactly the problem. A cropped hem creates a hard horizontal line wherever it ends, and on this piece, that line lands right across the curve of your upper back instead of moving past it. A structured boxy cut adds width through its straight, unshaped sides. Combine that with a cropped horizontal cutoff, and the eye gets two separate widening signals stacked in the one place that can least afford either. The alternative is length, specifically an open, long-line cardigan running well past the hip, left open rather than buttoned. An open front matters as much as the length, because a long-line cardigan buttoned closed just creates a new horizontal line at the closure point, undoing the entire benefit. Left open, the two front panels create long, unbroken vertical lines running the full length of your body, continuing that downward pull instead of cutting it off part way. And finally, number 7, the high, tight crew neck, sitting snug at the base of the throat with almost no give in the fabric. It reads as neat and covered, which is exactly why so many of us reach for it. But a rigid high neckline against a rounded upper back traps the eye right at the widest, most curved point of your silhouette, with nowhere else for it to travel. There's no diagonal to follow, no drape to soften the edge, nothing to redirect. What works is a neckline with movement built in, a soft cowl that folds and drapes, creating natural diagonal lines through the fabric itself. A diagonal wrap neckline does something similar, running a clear, asymmetric line across the chest that pulls the eye along an angle instead of letting it settle flat. 7 tops down, 7 fixes that work with the shape you actually have instead of against it. Here's one more thing worth knowing that has nothing to do with cut or neckline at all: fabric weight. 2 tops can share the exact same flattering cut and still behave completely differently on your body, depending on how heavy or light the fabric actually is. A heavier fabric holds its shape and stands away from the body. A lighter fabric falls and skims. For this specific concern, lighter almost always wins. An open scarf, draped loosely rather than knotted, creates its own long vertical line down the front of the body. A knot creates a small horizontal interruption exactly where you don't want one. Simple, open, hanging straight down. That's the version that actually delivers the elongating effect. Color plays into this too. One unbroken color running from shoulder to hem reads as a single long line reinforcing everything we just covered. Splitting that stretch into 2 contrasting colors right at the shoulder creates a visual seam exactly where one isn't needed. Think back to my neighbor and her 2 photos. The one where she looked rounder wasn't a worse day of posture, it was a top working against her. Nothing about her body changed from one photo to the next. And honestly, isn't that the part that should make you a little angry? How many photos have you looked at over the years and blamed your body for something a poorly cut top was doing to you the entire time? That's the real shift here. Not a transformation, just information. The same woman, the same shape, wearing pieces actually built to work with her instead of against her. A rounded upper back isn't a flaw waiting to be corrected, it's simply a shape, the same as any other, and there is always a version of every style built to work with it rather than fight it. Tell me in the comments which one of these 7 surprised you the most. And if you're tired of clothes being sold to you like your body is the problem instead of the cut, subscribe to Ever Poised and turn on notifications, because we're calling out exactly this every single week.